My guest today is Marilyn Wilson. We have a couple of things in common. The first is that we both felt growing up that we didn't fit in to our family. And the second one is, what is the second one? Darn, I can't remember. Oh, well, welcome to Small Talk.
Any and all are welcome here to come and chat with me.
Hi, everyone. I would like to welcome you all to the show and a special welcome to my guest, Marilyn. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
Oh, it's my pleasure for sure. There's so many things to talk about. First of all, you're a freelance writer. Is that correct?
Yeah, I love to tell people I started writing by answering a Craigslist ad at age 50, for which I had absolutely no experience at all. So yeah, so I do freelance writing. I have published 2 books. I do speaking and I do author support.
All right, now let's talk about your books. One of them is The Wisdom of Listening, and the other was Life Outside the Box. So yes. Which one came first?
The Life Outside the Box came first. I was a co-owner of a magazine and wrote for a couple others, and I was interviewing people from all over the world. And one day our partnership didn't work, and we had to shut the magazine down, and I was very discouraged. And I heard a publisher talk, and I thought, well, maybe instead of putting interviews in magazines, maybe I could create a book with mini bios, because most people say, I don't want to read a whole bio. I want short things, and everybody I know is busy. So it has 10 mini chapters. And the focus is a part of my brand is just how very different we all are and how that's okay. Like, it's okay that your life is not like everybody's around you. So every chapter in the book has somebody living a totally different life and defining success in their own way. And I love to say this, they were doing it without apology.
Nice, very nice. Yeah. And when did you write that book, by the way?
That one, I started in 2013. What should have been a 6-month thing was a year and a half of self-doubt. I'd never done this before, and crying and quitting and starting. It finally came out in February 2015, just when I turned 60. Like 3 weeks after, it was like I turned 60 and I published my first book. So it's never too late.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you. And it's quite successful, isn't it?
Well, it's been extremely well received. I did really well with it in terms of response. But as an author, I mean, success is a funny thing to describe. Do people love your book? Is it finding an audience? Yes. Financially, that's a really tough thing, and you have to kind of keep releasing books. And I seem to do one every 3 years. So I get bored easy. I like doing a lot of things. And it was a second book, I think, came out in 2017, and I'm due to release another one now. So if you keep releasing books, your old books continue to find an audience. But if you don't keep releasing, then things kind of go down, because we have so many books coming out now with self-publishing. Yeah. So how do you define success? It's a very open term.
Yeah, that's true. Now, what's the concept of your other book?
It's called The Wisdom of Listening. That was such a joy to write. My first one was 18 months of pain and crying and self-doubt. That one, I woke up one day and said, I want to write a book sharing everything I've learned from people in interviews and kind of life during that time as well. And in talking to people, all the life lessons, because I was so insecure and I was so hard on myself because I didn't fit in. And over the course of 150, I've got goosebumps, I'm sorry. Over the course of 150 interviews, things would be said to me that would give me goosebumps. And I realized after a few years, it was changing how I viewed myself and my world. And so this is as close as you'll get to a biography for me. It's the story of myself moving through that, where I was at the time, why what they said mattered so much to me, and how those things they told me affected my life. Even my husband one time was talking about biking and said something that just hit me between the eyes, and I went, I get it. So when you start listening to people, one of the interviews I did early on talked about having her art as a piece of gold in her pocket that she could hand to other women. in the same place as her to help them heal. And so I called these little bits of wisdom pieces of gold. And I say, every time you walk into a room, you're there to give gold or you're there to get gold. So you need to just be really aware of your surroundings and be willing to listen and talk. So my second book has, I think, about 35 little mini chapters. It's perfect for those people who want to pick it up, put it down, or don't like one chapter. It's easy to skip. Just talking about all the gifts of wisdom people gave me and how they affected my life and why they affected me. Yeah.
It's really interesting because just listening to you now and reading some of your in your bio, there's so many things that I connect to with you,
Yeah.
that insecurity. I think if I feel okay to mention it, like I grew up feeling that I didn't fit in my family, and that just carries through everywhere your whole life, right?
Yes. I think you and I are also of an age that the definition of what a woman was supposed to be and her role started at childhood. The girl was supposed to be sugar and spice and everything nice. I was in a very religious setting. My parents were very in the public eye, and I was the cute little blonde girl that had ADD. They didn't know about it, and I couldn't sit still, and I was impatient, and my mouth, and I was nosy, and I had two brothers that were perfect mama boys, So the message, right? If you want to be loved, this is the person you have to be. There was expectations, and to this day, I still find it hard to not try to make somebody happy. If they're struggling, if I'm doing my job, it will be fixed and they will be happy and I will be loved. And it's such a fallacy. And I hope the girls in the generation past us had it a little easier, but I certainly find most women my age carry that from childhood, and that message of you need to fix yourself to be loved.
Yeah.
And if you fix yourself, the people around you will be happy and they will like you. And that's just not true. And so I'm glad I'm not alone in this. It was such, interviewing really helped that, because here's all these people living wildly different lives, defining success differently. Some were rich, some were poor, some were this, some were that. They all had different paths and nobody was apologizing. They were quite happy with their choices, and nobody was telling them they were wrong either. And I thought there's a different way to look at this. And how can we embrace the diversity around us, like the racism we see and the country lines? How can we embrace that if we can't embrace our own uniqueness? So to me, what my brand is about is, first you learn to love yourself and understand you're the way you're supposed to be, and then you begin to offer that to those around you and celebrate their uniqueness instead of being afraid of it. So to me, it started out as just, I want to interview. I love hearing people's stories. And it seems like about every 5 years, a new little angle comes to it, a new way of looking at it and a little more depth to it. So I need to get writing.
No, we certainly share that interviewing people and listening and hearing what they have to say, and that connection, right? It's just, and when you connect with somebody you're interviewing, it is just, that's the gold for me.
Yeah. Right? What is the biggest thing you've learned in interviews? I know this is you interviewing me, but I'm curious.
That's a tough one. Well, I guess one of the things is that I have more in common with a lot of people than I thought I did. Yeah. I considered myself like socially inadequate, all of those weird things that we do to ourselves. I can put myself out there. I can't socialize very well. Give me a job and I can do anything. Mm-hmm. Even if it's washing your dishes, invite me to your event, I'll be there, but give me an assignment. So I've learned that I can do that through this, mm-hmm. starting with this. And I've also learned that I absolutely love supporting people. Yep. That's the best for me. Right?
Yep. That's great.
Yeah. No, I know you're also, you have a blog, is that correct?
Oh my, when my magazine folded, I didn't know what to do about writing. And somebody said, start a blog. And I said, I hate blogs. It's just a bunch of pictures and self-promotion. She says, it's whatever you want it to be. And if only one person looks at it, it doesn't matter, because it's all about you writing. So it started out as a way to instead of interviewing, put my thoughts out there. And it's gone on for about 9 years now. It's got, I think, 10 tabs in it because I get bored easy. So there's food and there's book reviews and there's fashion and there's so many things on there. but it also has one section just says a little bit of everything, and that's where I still put my thoughts if something has struck me in a book. Or so yeah, it's a lot of fun. I'm always looking for submissions. In fact, I have a new one out called Story from My Closet. If you have a piece of clothing or an article, an accessory or something that has special memories, or when you wore it, where it came from, just something, I'm looking for people to submit stories and a picture with them in it. So it's really almost like a magazine now. And that's me. That's not what a successful blog is supposed to be, but it's very in line with my brand. Everything is about diversity and change and being different and allowing yourself to try new things.
That's wonderful. I really do. Right?
It's called Olio by Marilyn, Olio, which is a melange or a thing, because I didn't know what to name it and I didn't have a brand back then. And so it should have been Marilyn Wilson's Olio by Olio or something, but it's called Olio by Marilyn. But honestly, everything else is under my thing. If you go to my website or Instagram or anything, you can find all this stuff. But yeah, I love having a place to write what's on my mind.
Very good.
Or even to share a recipe. But when I share a recipe, how did I find it? Why did I like it? What did I change? Like, it's all about stories for me. And when I started in 2016, nobody was talking about the importance of stories. And now everywhere I look, it's like ripples going out. Everywhere I look, people are talking about the importance of sharing your story and the importance of stories to humanity and to healing. And when I started, that was just nothing. Nobody cared or talked about stories. So it's nice to see that come to the front. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Now you in your bio anyway, it says that you're a speaker. Now, do you mean like a public speaker? Like a keynote?
When I get a chance, it doesn't come up very often. But I am terrified of speaking. But what I discovered is that I actually, if I can forget myself, I actually enjoy it. I love the feel of the audience. I love sharing a little bit. So most of the stuff I've done has been very small, but I would like to do more. But I don't see myself as like the keynote speaker for an hour. I love, 10 to 15 minutes and going up and sharing one important thing and connecting with the audience about how they are exactly who they meant to be, how it's never too late. I have some really key topics. How to know how to build your community. That was the biggest, I think, I learned from interviewing, how to build your community. So yeah, so I do speak sometimes. I'm always open. I prefer the shorter segments, but especially for women, say 40 and up, I feel a great compassion for them. And I think we need to hear from other women. And I think we have so much to share. I actually would love to walk around and just have everybody have 1 minute to share the most important thing. I think you'd be shocked how much knowledge is in the audience.
For sure, absolutely. Also, now you mentioned your third book. Have you started it already?
I started a third book about 2 years ago, and then it went dead in the water. I did 2 chapters. I was trying to do Life Outside the Box 2. I have about 20 interviews, and I just need to write up 10 of them. I would like to do, as a follow-up to the wisdom of listening, I'd like to do the wisdom of reading. I've been reading a lot of books that have had a lot of impact on me, and just taking one idea from each book to share. I would like to do a submission book called In Honor Of, and have women write a short chapter on somebody who's had an heavy influence in their life, a mother, an aunt, a teacher, but you have to be able to know their story. So I must have a list of about 20 books. But right now I would like to do a follow-up to Life Outside the Box, because I have a lot of material, and I would like to do the wisdom of reading, because I've got a list of about 10 books right now that I learned so much from, and just take one thing from that book and talk about it. So yeah, January 1st, I have committed to a book launch September 20th, and I haven't even decided what book I'm writing.
So cool.
Sometimes it's procrastination, despite my ADD, procrastination is a real problem. So I finally just threw my thing and said, okay, this is it. And I have set things up that I cannot take back. And so I have to make it happen. And I'm capable. It's just getting down and doing it.
Yeah, I'm a person like that. I'm better with a deadline.
Yeah.
I always have been.
When you work from home,
Okay.
and your husband's retired, the ability to find distractions.
Mm.
And I do love doing blogs, and I do love doing podcasts, and I do love supporting authors, and I do love all these things. And so it's so easy to pick the easy thing to do and not get to the thing that needs to happen.
Right. Yes. Now you mentioned that you have a website, correct? I
Yep.
think you have it. Is that the Oleo by Marilyn?
No, Oleo by Marilyn is my blog. There is a link on my website to it, so you can find it there. Marilyn R. Wilson is what my Facebook page is under, my Instagram is under, my website is under, my LinkedIn account. So Marilyn R. Wilson, and the only reason I put my middle initials, when I started writing, there were 10 Marilyn Wilsons out there, and one was a real estate agent that owned the first 10 pages of responses in a Google search. So I had to find a way to separate myself out from, and there was another writer as well. And so that was the way I branded myself. So it's really easy, Marilyn R. Wilson, and you can find me everywhere.
That's really good. So that people, I'm happy though that you're easily attainable or reachable, because it makes it so much easier for people, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and I'm just trying to, now I forgot there was something else I was going to ask. I keep doing this these days. I keep forgetting things,
Well, while you look for that, I will share something.
Okay.
I love to share this. I haven't shared it in a long time. One of my early interviews, somebody talked about the concept of Ujamaa, and it's a day in Kwanzaa, and it's cooperative economics is its traditional thing. So the village comes together and works to a common goal with nobody left behind. They raise the whole village up together. So I got major goosebumps when this came up, and I started to think about it, and I realized the application for me was, how do I build a community that doesn't tear me down? So I began to pay attention. And when women were talking about what they wanted to do and their passions, if I felt a kinship, I started to build a relationship. And the people that were very negative and were in competition, I just kind of let, like the rings of a tree, I just let them float out. I don't get rid of people, but I let them float out. And I kept drawing those people into me where we had a common goal and could do it without competition, and where we took turns being in the spotlight. And after about 2 years of doing this, I felt better about myself because I wasn't surrounded by people that were negative. The negative energy was gone. And the people around me, I felt that I uplifted, and I know they uplifted me, but it felt very dual. I didn't feel like it was a drain. I felt like we totally supported each other. And to this day, I'm still always looking for new women like that. I have some men there, but right now I focus on the women. So I want to throw that out there, that if you're in an environment that's very negative, it's time to rethink that. It's time to think about looking for people that you have a common goal, that you're not in competition, and you can take turns supporting each other. And if you start to pay attention, it's shocking how many of those people are around that we don't get to because they're not a neighbor. Their kids don't go to school with us. We've got all these people we fall into, and instead purposely choosing who our close friends are made the most difference in my life in terms of my self-confidence.
Right. Very good.
Every time I have a bad day, I reach out. Every time they have a bad day, they reach out. We are there for each other, but it took thoughtfully building this instead of falling into friendships. It took thoughtfully building them.
Very nice. Very good. Now I just remembered what I was going to ask you.
Okay.
About you were living in Seattle, correct?
When I met my husband, my Canucker.
Were you born in the U.S.?
Yes, I was born in Canandaigua, New York. Okay. I grew up in Mitchell, South Dakota, one TV station, super religious and strict environment. And then at age about 11 or 12, I moved to California. And what a change. We were way behind. So I've lived different parts of California. One day I turned around and I had an aunt and uncle in Seattle, and I said, I'm tired of the Southwest. It's dry, it's arid, it's this, it's that. They just plow the hills down. And I moved up to Seattle, and I quite liked it. but not as much as I liked Vancouver when I moved up here. And that's because I met my husband. He was down visiting people, and a year later I was living in Vancouver and married. It was quite a shock to the system, but I truly love living here. I love the diversity. I love the smaller size of it. I've been super happy here. I've been here almost 37 years now.
Very nice. Yeah. Yeah. I've only ever lived in Canada. So,
well, I always laugh. We have so many second and third generation people from around the world that I'll be in a room and I'll be the only immigrant. And I'm the one who looks, quote, Canadian in terms of people's expectations. And it's really fun to be in that environment.
Yeah. I've lived across the country, from New Brunswick to Quebec and Ontario and here. So, yeah. And even within that, there's so much diversity.
Oh yeah. I think moving is great. I am glad I'm settled now, but moving here opened my eyes. The US is so big, right, and you're so surrounded by it. You just don't get any other point of view. So moving here really opened my eyes. And then we've made an effort to travel internationally as well, and take ourselves out of the tourist area into the places where we're eating, where the locals eat, and really talk to people. And what an eye opener on how the world thinks. They don't think like we do. And it's okay, but you need to be exposed to that to gain a respect for it.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Well, on that note, I think we're out of time.
Okay. It went too fast. We'll have to do it again.
We'll have to do it again for sure. Wow, right after your new book comes out. How about that?
That would be fabulous. I don't even know what it is yet, but I would love to talk to you then. And I'm so grateful for you asking me.
Oh, it's my pleasure for sure. And to the audience, thank you so much for watching. I'm going to include Marilyn's website, so you'll be able to get a hold of her, no problem. And thank you all for watching and subscribe and all those wonderful things. And peace out, everybody.
If you have questions, send them to me.
Exactly. Thank you, Marilyn. Thank you, everybody. Oh, great. Okay, so this should air today around 4 o'clock-ish.
Okay, I am going to wait till morning. I get better social media numbers in the morning. Okay. And I just shared a YouTube today that I did 2 to 3 months ago. Yeah. And so I want to make sure this stands on its own. But this was unbelievably wonderful. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Like there was other personal stuff I could have shared, but what happens is I wanted to make sure you were talking and not me. You know what I mean? I just because you've interviewed so long, I realized I was curious. And I hope that didn't. No, it's just that there was so much that I feel we share, Yeah. One day. I do too. Yeah. When this opens up, we have to meet halfway. I'm in South Richmond. You're in Chilliwack, right? Yeah. And I no longer drive, unfortunately. So. Well, but I mean, we can meet halfway in Langley. Yeah. And have lunch sometime. That would be lovely. We used to go out. Glenn's mother was up at Cultus Lake, but she has now passed. She went into a home and now she's passed away. So I don't think I'm going to get out there that much, but there's a ton of places in Langley, especially around Willowbrook Mall. If we met there or a little farther or along the freeway somewhere. Yeah. Oh, we can make it happen. Yes, for sure. We can make it happen. But yeah, I'd love to hear about your years of interviewing. I'm fascinated. Thank you. And I want to hear more about you too as well. Okay. So thanks again. But I will post this on your Facebook page. So whenever you look at it, it'll be there. Sure. Awesome. Thank you. All right. All righty. Bye-bye. Bye. A sense of community. Chilliwack's a place to be, a sense of community where you're free. Rolling through the mountains, rolling through the valley, rolling through paradise with me. It's multicultural, you're sure to see it all. Chilliwack's a place to be, you'll see. Come party in the park, go dancing after dark. Chilliwack's a place to be, you'll see.